Hi everybody, how are you all getting on through this very strange time? Now the question we all want answered is, when are we going to get out on the golf course? Now I've interviewed Jon Dry, the general manager at Fulford Golf Club, to talk about the closing of the course, how they've coped and the possible reopening very soon. Let's go check it out. Hi there, I'm with Jon Dry from Fulford Golf Club. We are going to talk today about how COVID-19 has hit his golf club and how, as the general manager, he is coping during these times and looking to open it in the not too near future. So thanks very much for joining me, Jon. First question, do you think golf should have been carried on during this lockdown period?
Oh, good question. In all honesty, it was a bit of relief that the decision was taken out of our hands. I was getting emails back and forth, calls constantly about whether we should be open, what restrictions we should be using. At 5 o'clock, it was sort of sit down, listen to Boris and see what was going to happen. And then the evening was spent trying to react to that announcement. And in a way, it was nice to sort of have the decision taken out of our hands. Is it the right decision? I think the health and safety of our staff and our members is the priority. If the experts say it's not safe to be open, we just have to abide by that. It had to be the right decision. I know some people feel that it's different forms of exercise and things like that, but you've got to look after staff, you've got to look after your members. That's the number one priority.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point there. As golfers, we look at it from only our point of view, but as a general manager, you have to look at the staff and you've got to see it from their point of view, so that we can all have our opinion on it, saying, well, cycling's doing it, but it is really not the same because you have a lot of staff to look after as well.
Yeah, definitely. You do have the staff as well, and you've got people coming and going, and you've got people that are going to interact with each other at the golf club. You can put measures in, but there are definitely areas that you can't manage totally on a day-to-day basis.
So how has the club been operating since lockdown? I assume some furloughing of staff. Have you still had the greenkeepers in? What's that type of thing?
Yeah, we looked at the staff on the whole. Obviously, the clubhouse had already closed down a few days before, so that was an obvious decision to furlough the staff from the clubhouse. Our catering is external, and our pro shop is on a retainer as well. So they'd obviously had their own decisions to make. But in terms of the golf club, we kept 40% of the greenkeepers in, so 4 out of our 10 green staff are still working. The other 6 are on furlough, and then I've got myself still working, and the assistant manager, he's still in employment as well. So we've just gone through the subs process. So the actual administration through the office has been really high, looking at trying to move all of everyone's golf day bookings and green fee bookings to later on in the year or delay until next year. So there's still been a lot of demand through the office, and obviously the golf course, it's peak growing season, so you do need your team in there working hard.
Yeah, I don't think this could have come at any more of a difficult time. April, I see it as the start of the golf season. The Masters is the beginning of April normally, and everything gets going. So I think that's timing of this has been pretty bad in that respect. Have you done anything during the COVID-19 for your members? Did I see that you've got a support network that you've established?
Yeah, we've got a support network which we're really pleased with. It's gone down very well. There's an incredible number of members have come forward to help. So we looked at our age demographic of our members, and we've got in excess of 150 members aged 70 plus. So we were instantly concerned we're going to have a large number of people that could potentially be on their own. So we sent an email out asking members to come forward and volunteer to be able to help anyone self-isolating. So we've got a list of in excess of 30 to 40 members who have put themselves forward to be able to pop around with your supplies, your bread, your milk, and look after each other as we go through. And that's been really well received. Been very proactive with other members forwarding over quizzes to send out to members to do, and that's been really popular. That's been really good. And then it's a case of encouraging people to phone each other and just have a chat and see how people are, and it goes a long way when you just phone someone to just check in and see how they're feeling. I know some of the staff have been picking up the phone to some of the elderly members who are particularly on their own and just checking in, which is really good to see.
Yeah, I think that is the joy of being part of a golf club rather than, the pay and play system. I see that a few people have been able to kind of walk on the course, or is it is it no out of bounds? Is anyone able to kind of see?
We've got a public footpath going down the side of the course, so it is a case there's plenty of people walking by, and then you can go out onto a loop around the outside of the course on a nice walk. So certainly we've been heading up with the dog ourselves, sort of going up there and just sort of checking on the course, checking the work that the greenkeeper's been doing on the days that I've not been in. So it's actually worked very well from a security point of view. It's good to see that there are people about keeping an eye on the course. And you can see some of the horror stories of other courses with recent one we saw with the motorbikes and things like that. So actually, for me, having members and having some of the public going past, it sort of means we can rest a little bit easier that people are keeping an eye on anyone doing anything we wouldn't want to see on the golf course.
Yeah, and hopefully a few people that aren't members might be looking over and coming across it on their walk thinking, that's pretty nice, might fancy joining there. So in terms of contact with your members, how have you been keeping them all up to date with what's going on?
Well, we've sort of used it a bit of an opportunity to grow our social media. We put a good plan in place of different ideas of what we're going to do. We've done everything from videos of members practicing at home, with one member sending a video of his homemade golf course, and all sorts of different games that people have been doing at home. So that's been really good. Using the communication tools to send emails and regular updates on how things are progressing. I think particularly in the build up to the lockdown, it was almost a daily email because the goalposts were moving so quickly. We had to keep everyone updated with the changes we were having to make, what the safety sort of guidelines were going to be with the day we sort of closed the clubhouse, things like that. So the ability to be able to send quick communications out to members has been crucial, and using the course update to send the quick pop-ups on people's phones has been very, very useful. But then since then, it's about being sort of mentioned to engage and just keep people updated with how things are progressing. Getting people to send in the photos of the course and sort of updates on what the greenkeepers have been up to. Everyone is missing the club. Yes, they're missing their golf, but they're missing the club. They're missing that interaction with people they see on a daily basis. And then even little things like the quizzes. It's just trying to keep people engaged in that membership. And a golf club's a lot more than 18 holes of golf, and that's what we'll keep reminding people.
Yeah, very much so. And how have the members been? Have there been a lot of support for the club in terms of what date is your renewal for membership? Was it close by?
Yeah, 1st of April. So yeah, it was interesting. It was very interesting. So we've done pretty well. We're looking at around 85 to 90% renewals. So I think as we were going into it, I had fears of around 66% was sort of, I thought as long as we get over 2/3 and then once we reopen, we'll get some more. But I think what's been really striking was the number of senior members that had come forward and paid knowing that they were going to be in lockdown for a long time. And that really hit home with me. My previous clubs I've worked at have been both fairly modern clubs, and this being a club with a history of over 100 years, you have got some really long-standing members that the club is such an integral part of their lives, and seeing them come up and pay their subs knowing that they're not going to be allowed out for 12 weeks was almost quite moving at times. So we're hugely grateful for what the members have done for the club, and we're sort of looking at what we might be able to do to say thank you for their loyalty.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so important to get the renewals through. And also, I think what COVID-19 lockdown has really done is brought communities together and supporting the local golf clubs. In terms of your members, are a lot of them around the York area, or do you have a fair few country members?
Yeah, we've got 85% live within 10 miles of the club. So it's very close by. Obviously, as you head out of York, you do have some big clubs out towards Leeds, and obviously you've got Ganton nearby as well. So there's some tough competition in the area. So we do see that the majority of the members do come from the York area. Obviously, York's a beautiful city as well. So a lot of people move up here sort of for jobs and for just a change in lifestyle. And that's often where we see our members coming in, is it's people new to the area looking for what they perceive to be the best club in York. And that often opens the door for them to come on board.
Well, if we do open like Ireland, that could be very beneficial for your members, because have you seen the lockdown reopening that's going on in Ireland?
I have, yeah.
Pay.
I think it's going to be very interesting, and a few people misreading how many miles it is to the golf course, but it's definitely going to be tough trying to tell someone who lives 7 kilometres that they can't come. But we'll see what's said over the coming days, and as and when we open, what the restrictions will be.
Yeah, exactly. In terms of your social membership, do you have a decent social membership? And I suppose that's probably been a bit affected, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's been very affected. A huge part of that is sort of people who no longer play golf due to health reasons. Some of them actually don't play golf and never have. We're lucky enough to have a very good caterer who's very popular with those who like to come up to the club and just use the club socially for things like film nights and things like that. But what's quite scary at the moment is looking ahead through the year and trying to work out what we're going to be able to run. Are we going to be able to run a New Year's Eve party? Are we going to be able to do a Captain's Day social in the evening and things like that? So we're sort of throwing out ideas of whether we could run barbecues through the day, looking at things a little bit more outside the box, using we've got a lovely veranda that we can sort of set up some tables on and do a nice barbecue out there. So we're trying to sort of make the best of what we're going to have. But yeah, as I say, it's going to be very interesting over the coming weeks.
Yeah, I suppose what members are going to start asking is, obviously the first couple of weeks it'll just be golf. There'll be no competitions and stuff. But I've had a lot of people saying, when you can't put a date on clearly when your competitions will be, but are you still going to try and run the important competitions this year, maybe from the summer onwards?
Yeah, we've drawn up a list of our 10 key competitions for men and the same for ladies. So what we'll do is, at the point where we open, we feel we can run competitions, is that we will prioritise those events in that order. I think it's quite interesting. You initially think, club championship, we've got to put club championship in, but then that's not necessarily open to all players. So things like the Captain's Day, and certainly for us, the President's Putter, the B&H Trophy, to time of our heritage of the European Tour, it's trying to sort of make sure that those key events go into the diary, because it's a big reason why people are members at golf clubs. It is that competitive element. And the great thing with golf is it's probably going to be the only competitive sport we're going to be able to do for the next 6 months. I think if you look at amateur rugby and football, they're going to be a long time before you're seeing a scrum down the local park. Golf is going to be an opportunity for sportsmen to get stuck in and have that competitive element that they're so desperately craving. And that, to me, is a big reason why this could be really good for the game.
Yeah, I suppose, are you seeing that as something that you could possibly start looking at for marketing, for potential members and to retain members? The fact that this is going to be one of the only sports that you're going to be able to play this year, I would say.
Yeah,
and fishing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, fishing, yeah, and you can get the fishing competitions going, but golf is so easy to have a competitive game, and certainly we'll be looking to try and help out some of the sports clubs in York to sort of see if we can create some sort of corporate partnerships with them, so their members are still being engaged. But there's a lot of people that dabble with golf that maybe play 2 to 3 times a year, and it's trying to get them into the club, get them see the club mentality and the club spirit that you get, and trying to sort of lure people into the game that previously have gone on to other sports. I think that's one of the things we've seen over the last 20, 25 years, is that people who used to move into golf have started to go into other sports through different trends and fashions. And if this is the point where we start pulling them back into the game, it could be positive.
Yeah, I can definitely see more members coming into golf, and even with golf coaching, it might go back to the old-fashioned way of one-on-one out in a field instead of group lessons and simulator stuff. At least with golf, there is plenty of ways to maneuver it around. So in terms of your captains, I saw that it was supposed to be captains driving in March. So are they going to retain for the year, or what are you doing with those?
Yeah, the captains are going to carry on as normal. I think the key thing for us is to make sure we get a captain's day in early, a bit like what I said about the top 10 competitions. The captain's day is a big part of that. We haven't made a decision as to what we do after this year, whether they look to roll on for another year or we'll just sort of come to the end and sort of be known as the COVID captains. I don't know. But I think, in all honesty, this year they've got a huge part to play in the club. Yes, it's going to be it might be a sort of slightly different year to normal, but I think you're probably going to lean on your captain and your board members more than ever. And there's going to be a lot more conversations about the key sort of elements of the club, and getting out there and sort of saying hello and touching base with the members during this year is going to be what's crucial about making sure that we move into summer 2021 in a strong way. If we drop the ball at all this year, we're going to get caught out, and the captains are crucial at making sure the club comes through this strongly.
Yeah, moving on to finance, because I think a lot of people are looking at this, not only their own but their clubs. You know, most golf clubs they're not there really to make money, are they? Golf clubs, they're there to just recuperate and look after their stakeholders as such. You were saying about having a strong membership. What is the percentage of membership income compared to all your other events? Is retention of memberships key right now?
Yeah. You look at sort of our forecast for the year now, that a lot of that's sort of gone out the window, and the only one that you can really rely on now is your membership. So you're sort of having to go through the budget. Sort of had a conversation with the greenkeeper this morning about where we could shave off money. You've got to look at every single point. And actually, the fact that we haven't played golf during these last sort of 6 weeks or so, the club is able to save quite a lot of money, because this would be sort of high impact. You mentioned the Masters kicking the season off. We would have seen huge footfalls over Easter with glorious weather up here. So you're not having to spend as much time repairing the golf course from play. Actually, the greenkeepers can get an awful lot more work done because there's no one on the course. Yeah. So we can sort of lower the numbers of staff. So we'll get to the point where we'll start looking at, do we bring the full greenkeeping team back straight away, or do we gradually keep it and sort of use the furlough system? But from the club perspective, obviously the green fee side of it will get hit pretty hard. York being a tourist area, we do have quite a few golf trips that come up to the area. Flip side of that is going to be your usual Portuguese or Spanish golf trip might not happen. So we're hoping that we'll see an increase in Yorkshire golf travel. And at the moment, we're trying to look at a lot of our green fee bookings to move them later in the year or push into next year. So we're trying to sort of manage that loss there, and that's the best we can do, but also factor in that next year is not going to be easy.
No, and in terms of events and corporate stuff, I don't know, do you do weddings and parties, all that?
No, we don't do weddings. We do a few social things, but that tends to be more winter based. Okay. We would have had the RNA under 16 girls a couple of weeks ago, which was dreadfully disappointing to see that cancelled, but totally understandable. There's no way we could have run that event with the restrictions we're looking at through this year, and particularly when you've got youngsters involved, it's just not worth the risk. So that was obviously disappointing, and certainly for me, my first year at the club was going to sort of be one of the key events of the year. So, but we're looking forward to next year. We've got the 2021 under 18 RNA girls. So that's going to be a really exciting event. So we'll put the 2021 to one side and focus ahead to that one now.
Yeah. And in terms of like financial help, have you had anything from the government, any grants, anything from England Golf or the RNA, people like that?
Well, the difficult bit with the government grants is that although golf clubs don't make an awful lot of money, the rateable value is still quite high. You've got a big piece of land and a nice clubhouse, sort of all on the outskirts of the centre of York. So the actual rateable business is still quite high. So we don't fall into the category able to get the £25,000 grant. We've looked at the Sport England grant, but again, to be honest, we're a bit too big for that. So the business rates is a huge one for us. If we can sort of make the most of that, that saves us a good amount of money each year using the furlough scheme, and suddenly we're at figures where we can start to sort of see noticeable savings. We go through the costings, we sort of you cancel your bin collections, disguise cancellation, Cleaners are no longer coming in. We're not spending as much on top dressing and bunker sand because the play's down. So by going through that budget and just trying to trim it down everywhere you can is really the only way to go about it. We've got a figure in mind that we think we'll lose, and we're looking at the fact that we should be able to manage that at the moment, on the hope that we'll see another sort of 5-10% of members rejoin over the season.
Yeah. Now, what we all want to know, it's the opening of golf courses. Obviously, you can't say when it's going to be because nobody actually knows, but there is rumours that it's going to be sooner rather than later. So what are you going to do in terms of opening, in terms of the decision to open? Are you just going to go along with what the RNA says, or are you going to stick to what's going on in your area? How does the decision to open, who's making that one for you?
The good thing is the governing bodies in golf seem to be working together. It certainly gives me the impression that there will be a decision from the governing bodies that it's now safe to open, and these are the guidelines you should follow. So from a manager's perspective, that makes life a lot easier. We haven't got to go out on a whim and try and create a risk assessment that's going to be suitable for play. So we'll very much follow the guidelines. In terms of the clubhouse, that will sit very much in line with restaurants and bars. But the golf course, I think, is going to be sitting in with the exercise, your daily exercise. So we're hoping that once it's safe, as much as we want to see it returning quickly as possible, we want it to return when it's safe. And that will very much be the focus of the club, is to make sure we do everything we can to make the golfing experience as safe for our members and for our staff as we possibly can.
Yeah, and I suppose at least with the green staff being there, you still working, it will be ready. You know, as soon as you are told that the course can be open, it should be good to go. Or do you think it's going to take a couple of days to get in order?
I would say if we had to open it tomorrow, we could get it done. By the time you put some tee markers out and some flags, the golf course will be playable. As I say, we had 4 greenkeepers in, had worked incredibly hard and kept the course in decent shape. We've sort of worked out what sort of social distancing plans we would put in place, what time we'd allow members to arrive before, and then sort of those sort of steps that they'd have to go through. So we would feel pretty confident if there was an announcement that we could open the following day, we could get it up and running and activated. And that was really sort of the focus this week, was making sure we had all of the processes and infrastructure in place to cope with that.
Yeah, so booking online, I assume that you do that already. Have you already spaced out gaps?
Yeah, we have booking online, but we also don't have tee times at certain times as well. So we do have a lot of roll-ups. So that's going to be a bit of a battle, is that a lot of people enjoy the roll-up golf. They enjoy just popping down and knowing that they can just step onto the tee and play. And that's going to change. Everything I've read, it will be tee bookings, which will be interesting, because actually there are a big percentage of the club that do feel that tee bookings is the way to go, because time is getting more and more precious, and people want to know what time they're going to be on the tee and what time they're going to be home. So it might actually be an interesting experience for the members to see, actually, is this something they prefer? So definitely that's going to be a factor. How long the intervals between the tees are going to be. Again, I think this is all going to be sort of spelled out to us in what we do. Read some different articles about various countries who it's only 1 balls and 2 balls and same households. That could pose a bit more of a trouble. Speaking to a manager in Norway, his words were, it's a tsunami of golfers arriving each day, and trying to manage that, trying to get everyone out on the golf course if we are restricted 1s and 2 balls could be very challenging. So we have got a backup plan of running 2 loops. We don't have a first and 10th tee start that we can really use, but we've got 2 loops that we could do a second starting point out on the golf course. So we've got that plan in place if we need to go to it.
Yeah, I've been there. It's quite a long walk to your halfway house, I've got to say.
It is.
So you were saying about things might have to change. Do you have men's day, ladies' day, seniors' time? Will that go out the window in the short term, do you think?
I think in the short term, yes. But I think we'll also be keen to return to competitive golf and keeping the ladies playing together. I think the initial burst will be just general play, just get back out, get used to being on the golf course again, and just embrace it and enjoy being out there with your members, with your peers again. From there, as it just sort of settles down, and we look to sort of start filtering the competitions in, and then try and balance it out, and sort of try and get back to some sort of normality, because there will be members that we're very keen to get back into playing with their friends. But again, all of this I feel is going to be sort of directed to us, and we will have to sort of fall in line accordingly. As golfers, we know that it's a game built on dignity and sort of a desire to play by the rules. You don't see golfers cheating very often. It's so frowned upon, and I think as golfers, if you set out some good guidelines that people need to adhere to, that people will, and then we can get back playing safely and get the game back up and running.
So you don't think you're going to need any marshal or starter on the first or anything like that, just to police who's...
Well, the problem is by putting a starter out the tee, you're then exposing someone to an awful lot of people. And that's really the difficulty. As much as you look at it, by going down that route, you are putting more people in vulnerable positions. So speaking to other clubs across Europe, they have put people in the car park, just sort of advising people where to go. I think the hope is that we will be very clear about the instructions of where you can go at what time, and try and sort of filter it around that way. The difficulty will be if we are in ones and two balls running two different loops, then yes, we are going to have to be really quite proactive with monitoring that to make sure twos aren't becoming fours. And that could be, again, a bit more of a challenge. But the hope is that the golfers will really follow the guidelines and we can keep it safe.
Yeah, and in terms of, you said you've got a over 70s age group. I mean, is that not for you to police? That's for them to make their own decision, I suppose, if they're going to come down and put themselves at risk or not.
Yeah, well, it sounds like that's the way the government are going. It's sort of not saying it's against the law for over 70-year-old to come out. Obviously, we're keen to see people back playing, but we've got to keep them safe as well. So a lot of it will be down to the individual. I'm asthmatic, so I've got to be a little bit careful about what I do. I'm avoiding sort of the large supermarkets and things and just going to the smaller ones. So I think everyone is being a little bit conscious of what's good and what's bad for them at this stage. And you've got to be aware of what you're going to do. And I think trying to go out to a member and say, sorry, you're 72, you can't set foot on the golf course, probably isn't something we're going to do. But then if we see a member who we know is listed on the high risk, then we might be saying to them, should you really be out here? Because we care for the members, not so much that we disagree with what they're doing, but because we care and we want to see them healthy and getting through this wretched time. Yeah,
it's a tough one. We've had somebody at my local course that passed away from COVID-19, so I think they're almost hoping that it's, he's never going to get the chance to play this golf course again. So let's all respect that and do right. But you know what us golfers are like. The social aspect of it is such a thing which I think everyone has taken for granted. As much as you want to go out there and play, after a week or so, you're going to want to see your mates and play golf against your mates. And that's going to be a big challenge for everybody to try and not to do, I suppose. Right, so the future of golf, do you think we'll come out of this better? Do you think stuff will change forever? How do you see it?
I think we'll come through it a little bit cleansed. I think there'll be unfortunately, there will be some clubs that will fall by the wayside. It's going to be a very tough time. You look at the figures in the industry, there are probably more golf clubs than there are golfers. And that it probably is a bit of a natural cleanse that needs to be done. However, I think there's an awful lot of positives to be taken from it. As I said before, I think the UK golf tourism industry should really be impacted positively. I know I usually go on a golf trip later in the year to Spain, and we'll be looking at, do we go to Spain or do we stay in the UK? Do I particularly want to get on a plane and fly at the moment? Probably not. So there's going to be a lot of clubs, particularly sort of around tourist areas, that could see a real surge in business that way. I think golf clubs are going to really benefit because people are going to want to join. People want to be members again. I think if you look at the way a lot of people are shopping now, they're using the local shops and the greengrocers and the butchers, where normally they would just go to the supermarket. It's that same sort of mentality that you want to support the club. You want to be part of the community. And I think that that's going to be a big part of it. I do feel people are going to travel less. So it might be a case, instead of having a big holiday each year, people may look at it and say, well, actually, I'm not going to go on the big holiday. I'm going to go on a smaller holiday. I'm not going to go abroad, and I'll upgrade my golf club membership. People will look at different decisions. Will people travel as much with work? Will people look at doing Zoom calls? So people might have more time at home than they had before. So there's all these different things, but certainly I feel that people's priorities are going to change. And I do think that will benefit golf as a sport. And certainly in the short term, I think golf's got this window of opportunity that if we work together as an industry and really sort of promote the benefits of the game, we can see golf coming back up to where it was sort of in the late 90s.
Yeah, and a question probably from your members is, when are you going to let green fees on? Are you going to do members only to start with?
I think that's the plan. I think that's the plan, is that we will be going down the member route. Certainly they will get priority. The interesting decision will be anyone who's got an existing booking. Can we phone up an existing booking and say, sorry, we've got to cancel you because it's members only? It may well be a case the government outline that it is just simply members only at first. But again, we'll follow the guidelines there. But I think certainly as a golf club, we are hugely dependent and hugely grateful for the support from our members. They have to be the priority. Yes, there's a bottom line we've got to try and hit, but I think later on in the season, that will be where we'll look to try and sort of keep some income coming from there. But we feel in the position we are now that providing our members continue to support us, we should be all right.
Yeah, more reason to join your golf club, because it's going to be members only for the first few weeks at least. In terms of like the digital world, obviously you're communicating more with your members digitally. Can you see, going into the pro shop and paying for your competitions a thing of the past, or even scorecards?
Yeah, in all honesty, yeah, I really can. I think if you look at, certainly the way we bill the competitions, a lot of it is done remotely anyway. You tick off, and then the office staff will often go through and take the payments off of people's accounts. You've got things like contactless payment on your membership card. So the touch points are actually reducing down. We were at the point where members were no longer registering themselves to the competition. The pro shop staff are registering people on arrival. So that's definitely going to cut it down. Certainly clubs I've worked at before, if you are just dealing with members, the staff tend to know who the members are. So you don't necessarily need to enter your card. Getting through doors, we do on a swipe card anyway. So the touch points are reduced. In terms of scoring, yeah, I think that the mobile scoring through your phone is certainly better than sort of sifting through scorecards from that perspective. Am I a fan of entering scorecards on your phone? Yes and no. Sometimes it's quite nice to have the scorecard in your hand and write it down. However, there is a bit of fun to it, being able to know what the score is in the group behind and things. So it is positives and negatives, but it certainly is an opportunity to try out this technology and see how it impacts and whether the members like it or not.
Yeah. Right. And finally, if you was to send a message to somebody who's umming and ahhing about joining the golf club, like renewing their membership, what would you say to them?
I think now's the time to step up and support the club. You've got to look after the club that you're a member of. Without members, the clubs will fold. Anyone that's sat on the fence, yes, we'd love to be in a position where we can sort of do great deals and sort of attract members and really repay the faith financially. But really what you're becoming is part of a community. You're becoming part of a group that come together. I don't know about gyms, but certainly golf clubs you are seeing across the country where members are helping each other out. Members are coming forward to volunteer to take round groceries. As I've always said, a big thing I'm very passionate about is that golf club's about more than 18 holes of golf. You are joining a community. You are entering into something by becoming a member, and it's a lot more than just pitching up, going around 18 holes of golf, getting the car and going home. Okay, that might be a little bit how we play golf over the coming months, but you are becoming part of a community, and that's what golf clubs need to focus on being. Really appreciate your members, don't take them for granted, and same back to the members. And if the two parties work together, you're going to create a really special environment.
Yeah, great. I mean, I've cancelled my gym membership, but I have not cancelled my golf membership, because it's a loyalty thing. And I probably think over the years, some members have felt a little bit, what about us? And I think maybe this is a bit of a reset button for the golf industry and golfers in general to look at things a bit differently. And like you said, when things were really successful for golf clubs, memberships were booming. So it's probably a nice time to look back at that and think that's not a bad model, I suppose. Right, thank you very much for that, Jon. Really appreciate all your insights on how Fulford's doing. Sounds like it's going to go well, and hopefully in a few weeks' time we will be seeing everybody on the golf courses.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please click the like button and the subscribe button below, and if you've got any comments, we would love to hear from you. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again next time.